and hopefully our audience is being educated as much as they are being entertained. But now I'd like to shift gears for what little bit of time we have remaining and talk a little bit about contemporary politics. You've certainly injected yourself into that as well, and Bill knows a little bit more about that.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Gibson. I noticed, for instance, on your website, that you were very favorable towards Ron Paul in the last election. And what do you see in terms of American politics? Where is our hope? And give us your ideas on Ron Paul and his movement, which has actually grown into the Tea Party movement and it seems to have awakened people to a lot of dangers in this country, and people are actually beginning to take action.
Well, somebody has to say something once in a while.
But Ron Paul, what's your opinion on him? Obviously, you favored him in the last election, or had some nice things to say about him. What about Ron Paul in particular impressed you?
Well, nobody else was there that was worth a vote.
That's for sure.
Well, he certainly did, I think, bring a new force to politics in terms of his ability to get up and tell the truth and address the real problems in this country, as opposed to the staged problems that we face and the staged solutions. But in terms of the direction of the country, what most people believe now, I think, that things are going to get worse before they get better. What do you see happening in the country over the next 4 years under the Obama administration? Are we going to be gradually or even suddenly thrust into a more totalitarian system? And what are the danger signs?
Well, our industry is disappearing, and it takes a while to get rid of it all, but I think they're capable of doing it. They certainly do not have any of the country's welfare at heart, or any part of the country. They're out to destroy it, the same as the people in Rome are out to destroy the church.
And there again, I think, is the correlation, and it seems as though you always have a common denominator in these matters. If it's anti-Western, if it's anti-Christian, and again, Mr. Gibson, we understand that our people have a power. We have the ability to boycott and withhold our support of certain institutions and certain policies that we don't like. But what more than that do you think the people listening to this radio program tonight could do to engage themselves in some sort of a solution? I mean, what would you have people do?
Well,
or is there anything they can do? I mean, that really is the million-dollar question. Certainly, if I knew an answer, I would.
Gets less and less they can do all the time. But one thing they better not do is give up their guns.
There you go. Now, see, that right there is a great a great word of advice coming directly from Hutton Gibson. And certainly, this is a program that ardently defends the Second Amendment. But anything else, or is that really the best thing that people could do right now?
Well, it's one of those things. In Russia, they proceeded. They come around at 2 a.m, and they didn't have any alarm system where people would gather and support the people that were being raided. If they could rig up something of that sort, a regular alarm system, where when one bunch is besieged by some government agency which doesn't belong, and federal agencies in particular don't belong in the states.
That's right. Absolutely right.
Mr. Gibson, that's one thing I wanted to ask you about. I noticed on your website that you had mentioned at a We the People conference in 2004 that secession is the best option for stopping government excess and stopping government tyranny. Your ideas on secession, real quick, before we go.
Well, secession is... see, there were certain powers delegated to the federal government by the states. And the federal government has gone ahead and seized a lot of them. One of the delegated things was the coinage and distribution of money. And it's a delegated power. And the federal government had no right whatsoever to hand it over to a private bank like the Federal Reserve.
You are absolutely right. I tell you what, if you're willing at some point in the future, I know we purposefully wanted to focus on a vastly important topic, that being the church tonight. I would love to talk to you more about contemporary politics, because you're certainly speaking our language, and it's so refreshing to hear a man of your stature speaking on things that seem to just fly over the head of the average citizen and the average voter. I mean, they have no understanding about the Federal Reserve and the great usurpation of power that the government has taken, the obliteration of the Constitution that they are engaged in. I mean, this is just, well, you want to focus on what's wrong with America. I mean, we could keep you on for a couple of weeks and never scratch the surface on that, I guess. Yeah,
well, there are a lot of people that are up on that. So I try to stick to the religion thing, because I don't think there's too many of them in my field that will agree with me. They're all trying to work out some deal with the so-called Pope. And he can't be a Pope because he's not a bishop. And he's not a bishop because they changed the Sacrament of Holy Orders about 1968, and he was made a bishop in the 70s, when it was too late. He's as a man-made sacrament that put him in. Now, the sacraments, according to the Church's definition, were instituted by Jesus Christ to give grace. And no man can create something to give you grace. He doesn't have it. He's had no control of it.
Well, and these are just truly basic, almost basic fundamental doctrines of our faith, and unfortunately these are things that are too easily forgotten now. And certainly when it comes to Catholicism in general, you are an authority on the matter. I appreciate your traditional standing on these issues, and coming back full circle and in summation. I mean, obviously you were brought on this program tonight to talk more about that. Your books, or two of your books, which are available. Now, there are some free downloads, I understand, of some of your other works available at HuttonGibson.com. But if people are interested in learning more about a topic that, as you mentioned yesterday in our private talk, I mean, it's just a huge topic. I mean, we barely scratched the surface tonight. But if they do want to learn more, you have two books for sale, which are autographed. Is the Pope Catholic? Is the first title, the second being The Enemy is Still Here. Mr. Gibson, a final word from you to the audience tonight about why it is important that they learn more from your website and from your books.
Well, they're not going to hear it anywhere else. Even the people that were raised Catholic, supposedly, from the late 50s on, were not properly instructed. And they don't pass it on because what they have is not worth passing on. You've got to go back and look at the original. And that's what I stick to. I have never invented anything.
The original is handed down from Jesus Christ was good enough for you. It should be good enough.
For 19 centuries it was good. Now suddenly we're brighter than our ancestors, and we can tell what's good for us.
Well, I certainly don't believe that. It's great to know that you don't believe that either. Ladies and gentlemen, check him out at HuttonGibson.com. Mr. Gibson, again, extreme honor to interview you tonight, and Godspeed to you as you continue your work.
Thank you very much.
Hutton Gibson, everyone. Great honor. And Bill Rowland and I will be back for the third and final hour this evening. Don't go anywhere. Still another hour forthcoming tonight in the Political Cesspool. You just heard from Hutton Gibson, father of Academy Award-winning director and actor Mel Gibson. That was his dad. And we're going to talk more about it. We're going to break it all down. What a show we've had thus far. The third hour is still coming. Stay tuned.
There's a third hour of tonight's installment of the Political Cesspool coming your way right after these messages.